I think as reality gets more and more bizarre and more unmanageable, and technology hurls open more and more doorways on nano worlds, virtual worlds, telepathic worlds, artificial life, AI, sooner or later this is going to be topic one, that reality is mutating before our very eyes. We are mutating before our very eyes. And the job, I assume, of people like ourselves, and I mean everybody in this room, is to assuage other people's anxiety. Because, if you're really embedded in print-created linear values, you're shitting white at this point, and it's only going to get worse. You can't understand half of what you hear. The walls seem to be closing in on you. Well, those who understand should assure those who don't that it's simply, as the mushroom once said to me, it said, no big deal. It said, this is what happens when a civilization prepares to depart for the galactic center. It just takes about 120 years, and yes, there can be a rocky liftoff, but don't worry, we've done this before. We've never lost one. Well, I think it comes back to what we've been circling around here, which is ethics. As I'm sure you know, Frank Tipler wrote this book,
The Physics of Immortality.
The Physics of Immortality, and he argued in there that from certain ethical points of view, the technology that we're about to achieve carries with it the possibility of resurrecting the dead.
Right.
You touched on this earlier this afternoon. And he says that if you could resurrect the dead, there would be a moral obligation to do so.
It's almost Mormon.
Yes, it is almost Mormon. That having that power, you could not maintain your humanness by turning your back on the obligation. Well, then he goes beyond that. He obviously slept on that idea, and then he comes back, and in a further chapter he says, and furthermore, a deeper ethic would take the position not only that the dead must be brought back, but that all genetic possibilities never realized must be brought into existence. So, in Eric Davis's book Technosis, which will be out in a few months, in the final chapter he offers a kind of Buddhist umbrella for the ethical development of cyberspatial civilization. That kind of an ethical imperative would have us, I think, bringing back the dead. My vision is to, and it's not mutually exclusive of all that, but I say until we know what death is, we don't want to bring back too many of the dead. They might be entirely ungrateful. That was pure genius. They might be ungrateful, but an image which I can get into is the idea that what our human destiny is to bring intelligence, linguistically mediated intelligence, to all animate existence, and to create a world where every eye that looked out at the world was an intelligent and communicating eye. It's a sort of the lion lays down with the lamb deal. It's that we need not be separate. I mean, you want to have nodal intelligence. We talk about shifting our identities and our gender choices and things like that, but imagine if you spent time as a gray whale, as a redwood forest, as a school of barracuda. All of the, nature becomes essentially a world, a universal node of points of view through which we can move.
A universal medium.
A universal medium, which is what matter is. That's what nanotechnology and an understanding of molecular genetics makes clear to you, you know. Molecular genetics is entirely mechanical as far as we know. In other words, radio does not play a role in the expression of the genes, but generally speaking, we have gotten a very long distance modeling genetic process by assuming these things are simple lock and key mechanical systems which template and re-template information and transfer it that way. I think that one way of thinking about the human journey and what's happening is that we are the creatures of the imagination. More than any other creature on the planet, this is where we like to spend our time. We have a very capable brain, and we like to look at trees of possibility, usually generated around the issues of erotic fantasy and food getting. But this has given us lots of practice with manipulating these what-if scenarios, and the whole history of invention is a history of what if.